I was recently, you know, I travel the tech conferences. I go around. I'm a fixture, I would say, at this point in many of the spots. And then when we record stuff, we're now flying, Johnny Jones out to take video and share the experience and leverage it, for those who can't make it. But what starts to happen is we start to leverage that stuff and put stuff on social media and let folks know what we're experiencing. Eventually, members of our community get involved, pitch in, and we do what we do. We Lego up, we click up. It's the Voltron lines. It all happens, and that happened last year at CES 2023. Got a direct message on LinkedIn. Say, hey, I see you coming to CES this year. Check this out. I might be able to get you into this Dolby Atmos event. And the guys I had with me were going nuts because, first of all, Dwayne Meekins is a video game guy. And he was like, Dolby Atmos, oh my goodness, my headphones do that. I want to be able to hear the bird fly diagonally from back here to go over there. It's incredible. So we were like, man, okay, there's a lot going on. Let's try to get over. But the big point is, she who called did an incredible thing, reached out cold and said, if you're available, come through. I love that about our community, and I love that about us. So today on the Black Futurist, we have she who reached out, Miss Leshawnda Larkin, and I don't know why she quiet laughing. Yes, you can be heard. What's up?
Oh.
Live from Dallas.
I know. Yes, I'm back in Dallas.
Yes.
I've been traveling over these past couple of weeks at all these amazing events, but this really feels like family. Seeing you both here, as we all were all in school engineering at Howard University. So this feels like home. So thank you for having me.
It is like home. And what happened next was we were in Art Basel, I should say Miami Art Week a couple weeks ago. Howard University, the Chadwick A. Boseman College of Fine Arts was having a series of events, plus everything else that happens in that city. And Leshawnda, you showed up and you were there with Black Public Media. Is that right?
Yeah,
Talk about that for a second.
Yeah, so I actually have met Lisa, who runs the Black Public Media Plus program. Years ago, we first met at Sundance. We were both there supporting the New Frontiers event that happens that really kind of showcases new technology. So at that time, it was VR. A lot of the film festivals were kind of breaking into that space. And I was there at the time working with Samsung, and we were supporting will.i.am and Black Eyed Peas as they had a venture with Marvel, and they launched a VR program, Masters of the Sun, which was really cool because they featured a lot of old school hip hop artists as the voices. And so it was just great to kind of see, culture kind of embrace this new technology. But met Lisa there, and she's just been such a great supporter. And she's invited me to come speak at some of the Black Public Media events. And she reached out and said, hey, would you come and talk about emerging trends that would be important for creatives to know about? And so that's how I ended up there. And what she actually leads is really introducing new technology from a storytelling perspective. Black Public Media is an entity that kind of supports public broadcasting TV. And so they're there to kind of help make sure that there's diverse content that's being made. So if you are a fan of, let's say, for example, PBS, they showcase a lot of great documentaries. Some of those documentaries are supported by Black Public Media. And Lisa's really in the forefront, realizing that storytelling can come in many different forms and mediums. And so she's really pushing how to leverage VR, AR, and other kind of technology to tell our stories.
Excellent. I knew you were coming on the show today, and while we were in Miami, you mentioned one of my reasonably good friends. I would have said great friends until he gave me some crap earlier today. One of my reasonably good friends, Brent Hughes, is also joining us today.
Hello.
I love Brent, so you can't talk too much trash. This is my buddy right here. No, he's a great supporter. We follow each other on social. And so he just always has this wonderful positive energy. And I just love what you do during homecoming every year, just really pulling us together to come celebrate. So he's good people in my book.
Yeah. Welcome the engineer formerly known as Chef Brent Hughes.
Yes. Hello, people. Good to see your face.
Yes. So, Leshawnda, talk about Black Public Media. What's your role?
Oh, so actually, I don't work for Black Public Media. I
Hmm.
was actually just kind of asked to be a part of this particular program,
Yeah.
just because of my area of expertise, kind of working in emerging technology, and really the spaces of creative technologists. So I'm not affiliated with Black Public Media, but I certainly have supported a lot of their programs in the past.
I contacted Brent this morning and I said, hey, Leshawnda's coming on the show and here's what we're talking about, emerging tech. And he gave me crap about it because apparently that was an insufficient summary of what we're discussing. But then she just said emerging tech at least twice just now. What say you, sir?
She
I think
said
my,
it in the context of other things, didn't she?
yes, as in what she's
Oh,
about,
okay,
what she's
okay,
doing,
okay.
what her expertise
All right,
is.
all right. Thank you for filling in his blanks. I appreciate it.
Yes, Leshawnda, you mentioned that we are quote unquote LKD kids. What are LKD kids? Products of,
um, of Downing Hall, man, School of Engineering at Howard University.
that's right.
The people, we were always in the library studying where everybody else was partying.
And to your credit, it's your credit. You went the hardest route, if you ask me. I mean, all the engineering disciplines in undergrad are incredible and challenging because they're probably one of the only career paths that you can become a professional right out of undergrad, which is nuts.
Hmm.
Other, be a doctor or attorney, you got to go to some type of finishing school. But you went even harder and did Chem E. Like, okay, you went all
I
the way.
know.
What was that decision like?
Oh my goodness. I look back and I'm like, how did I pick chemical engineering? But I think at the time, at the time, I had interest in going to medical school. And so I felt like if I was picking engineering, chemical was probably the closest to that. And also, I also had a fascination with products. And I knew that, being in engineering, specifically chemical, that I could end up in a place where I would see products in store, which
Yeah.
ended up happening. So it's funny because my sister ended up going to Howard. She was a chemistry major. She's the doctor in the family. I'm not. But I give all credit to the School of Engineering because it really set a strong foundation in problem solving, and really how to do kind of situation assessment of just really anything. And I feel like with those skill sets, you can really basically do anything. But I'm very fortunate because actually I did work in engineering
Mm-hmm.
after Howard University. I worked as a chemical engineer for 3 years at Colgate Palmolive. They had a bar soap plant in Kansas City. I know, bar soap. So all the Irish cream uh, was made at our plant. And so for me, I was really excited about that because I knew any store that I entered in the US, I knew that that product was made at our store and learned so many lessons working in that job. A lot of responsibility for someone at that age. I was managing a crew of 30 plus people.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of responsibility. I was doing shift work, so I was working 3 days on and 12-hour shifts. Sometimes working night. When I worked my first Friday, Saturday, Sunday night rotation, I was like, oh no, I'm too young for this. But it gives you, when you think about it, all these products that we wear, there is someone that is taking that responsibility to deliver it. And so it gave me just, a deeper understanding and an appreciation for the things that we have. But it also forced me to say, you know what, I need to make a change.
Mm.
So after doing 3 years working at Colgate, I decided to go back to school full time, and I went to Duke University to get my MBA to go into marketing. And actually, I give Colgate credit because their marketing team was very involved in innovation, and so they were constantly at our plant testing out new formulas. And so from that process, engaging with them, I realized that I wanted to be on the other side where I could help come up with concepts and develop new ideals and really kind of understand consumer insights to help solve problems, which kind of ties back to the engineering aspect of what we learn in all those disciplines is how do you solve problems.
A couple of things there. Number one, I would have never thought that the formula for Irish Spring ever changes. Like I would have thought it's just what it is. You guys just wash, rinse, and repeat, quote unquote, tongue in cheek, the same formula over and over and over again. Maybe the stuff on the production floor might change, the processes get more efficient, but I would have never thought that they change the formula.
Oh, yes. When I was there, we were actually launching a new SKU with aloe. So they were adding aloe to the formulation, but then you're also changing fragrances. There were also products that had antibacterial agents in there. So yeah, dabbled in a lot of different kind of changes with the formula.
Interesting. Second thing, and Brent, I want to hear from you on this too. When we came out of school, you touched right on it. I was civil at the time. And so my internships were in construction or demolition. And so you have this 19, 20, 21-year-old kid managing a crew of, like you say, 20 people on different shifts. And I'm the guy, which is crazy. As a male, one of my coping mechanisms was, okay, I better grow some facial hair because I can't walk around looking like this. Did you ever have that experience, Brent? What were your early jobs coming out, and how did you deal with that?
So a lot of us went from Howard, me, Ralph, Janaea, Tin, Trebas. We all went to GT management training program. So we were kind of groomed for that management thing early on. But I realized that wasn't what I wanted, like long term. They're like, oh, you could be a CE something. I was like, no, I'm not really interested in that. But early on, I did have that experience. My first rotation, I was working in a network operations center. And it was kind of a ability thing that kind of moved me up, because a lot of folks had been there a long time and they were kind of happy with what they were doing. And I came in writing scripts and making programs. So I'm like, yo, if you want me to do this every day, I'm going to run a script in the background to do it overnight. So I don't even have to. They're like, the next day they're like, so what is this? I'm like, oh, I just made a little visual something. Hey, wait a minute. What skills do you have?
Right.
So, and it was kind of that thing at the beginning too. It was like, who is this college kid coming in with, doesn't have any experience? What can he add to the pot? And that was sort of the thing too. It was, I'll give credit to the person that was managing the program. She did want to hire a lot of Black engineers. In hindsight, the only issue is she came to Howard for all of those. There were a couple that came from
I don't
Georgia
find a problem
Tech.
with this.
I mean, in the scheme of things, you know what I'm saying? You know what I mean? It's like it's like us having the only swim team, right? I'm happy for that, but it's disappointing in a way. It's all of us engineers who were minorities. There were some Latinos too. And on the program, there were also folks with MBAs, and they were the only white people. So they were like, how are we equal with the engineers? And we're like, we're fucking engineers. You can try to dance around that if you want to, but we're special regardless. And we're Black. So and that was the thing. It was look at the management structure. I think there was one woman out of, I want to say maybe 10 or a dozen executives, and they were all white. No, it was one Black guy. There was one Black guy, but out of those numbers, and that was the thing. It was like, well, if we want to change the culture, then this is what it is. And then after that, I went. I actually moved back to DC and got a job with Lenny's company. And that was another thing. My progression has always been relationships. I say I've never gotten a job where I interviewed where I didn't know somebody.
Oh, wow.
It's never, and I think that's a credit and a debit, because obviously I don't interview well. Actually, a job I have now, again, small world. When I quit to cook for a while, I met this woman when I was running the bar, and I just happened to run to her last year. And now I work for the company she worked for before. And I talked to her after I got hired. I was like, yeah, thanks for looking out. She was like, I didn't say anything. That was you. I was like, oh, okay, thanks.
You have a whoopee. You have a safety blanket that you actually don't even need.
Right. And so after that, when I came to work with the consultant firm here, the lead on the project I was working on got sick, so I had to run the project. Same thing, and it was like I'd never done this before, but ended up getting an award for that. So it's kind of, you don't know what you can do, and sometimes you get thrown in a fire to prove it. So that was my experience.
The weird story, quickly, just on you touched on an idea about how you can come out of school and be in this professional position, and you're also an engineer, right? So At one summer I was working for Bechtel, which is a big international construction company. We're working on a demolition project upstate New York. And when they do these big projects, they bring trailers out because those are the offices and the meeting spaces and everything. We're on a demolition site. And those trailers need to have, once they get installed, they need to have a porch built and all kind of things. And I remember coming up one summer and they brought a new trailer up and they're like, hey, do you want to manage the construction of the new porch for this new trailer? And I was like, well, I mean, what's there to manage? These guys have done it 5 times already, obviously. But you know what I will do? I'll design you a new porch. And my porch took about 45% of the lumber. It was a bikini compared to the overbuilt monstrosity that the carpenters have been doing over and over again. I'm like, you guys are just like, this lumber actually is rated for a certain force, and I can put a factor of safety on it so we can get the thing done without so much waste and make it fun and a little more pretty. So I designed it, drew the whole thing out, and then had the carpenters building according to my specs. And then I complete the whole summer, go back to college. The next summer, I'm coming back to the same construction site to work with those engineers again on site. And one of the engineers I'm talking to on the phone says, hey, so did you hear about what happened? I'm like, what? We had a little accident here on one of the trailers. What are you talking about? One of the porches blew away. I was like, don't play. He's like, no, I'm just messing with you. But these are the challenges and the fun parts of being a young engineer or a young professional, well-trained and thrust into the world. Leshawnda, you have another school listed on your portfolio that I can't pronounce. You went to Thailand for part of your MBA, is that right?
Oh, yes, I did a study abroad in Thailand. So
was that part of the Duke experience, or was that something
It
different?
was part of the Duke experience. So Duke is great in the sense of having a study abroad program. And I wanted to go somewhere that I probably normally wouldn't have picked for myself to go. So I actually spent a term in Bangkok, Thailand. It was a joint venture with Wharton.
Okay.
And so we were there with some Wharton students as well as some Northwestern students too. It totally changed my life having that experience.
I have questions. Again, question one, I want you to answer both of these kind of in whatever format you want. Number one, I want to know, like, who were your parents and what was the discussion when you said, I want to go to chemical engineering? And then I also want to know, once you're in there and then you go to your MBA, what do you learn in Thailand that's different than what you're learning in Durham?
Oh, my parents wanted me to do engineering. I went to a performing arts school from 4th to 12th grade. So I went to Cleveland School of the Arts. So think of Fame, that the show on TV.
Okay.
I was a music major. And so, I took private lessons from a very young age for piano and flute. But my mom especially pushed to make sure that, I was thinking more about my future, that I had a job that I could take care of myself. I don't know if you remember back then, we didn't have the internet, so we had to go to the library and they have those those big books that had all the jobs. And so you would look through the books, like here's the different careers. So I would do that. And so I actually had the opportunity my junior year when I was at Cleveland School of the Arts to intern at NASA. At the time, it was called Lewis Research Center. I think it's now called Glenn Research Center. And so that really kind of turned my head to really start looking at engineering was that internship opportunity. And I was shocked that I even was awarded the opportunity because I went to a performing arts school, but I had very good grades in science. My chemistry teacher was a bit advocate. So that's how that really kind of to steer my career into engineering. So, yep. No
incredible.
Pushback from my parents. They were like, go and make that money for yourself.
You are the exact person that we need to call if Close Encounters of the Third Kind ever happens, and we got to do that. Boo, 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 boo. You got music and science and NASA all wrapped up in one woman.
And I think about it, mine was similar because I don't remember how I chose electrical engineering, but I had a cousin that went to Howard who did chemie. I want to say she finished in maybe 90, but I remember going to the library and coming out with that answer, but because I knew I liked physics, math, and electronics. But I remember going to the library and coming out with saying, oh, electrical engineering, that's going to be it.
Wow. That's great. So,
and I started taking piano during the pandemic too. So,
do you still play, Leshawnda?
I do. I have a keyboard over here. Probably not as good as I used to because I practice all the time, but
Mm.
I still have my flute. No, don't have me try to play any Andre 3000 songs. But, but actually, I was in the marching band at Howard for my first 2 years. So I
Okay.
was able to kind of, still stay in that. But by that third year, I was like, I need to take a step back because, you start getting more into your core curriculum.
Yeah.
And all I got to say is one word, thermodynamics. So I was like, oh no.
That's everybody's one word.
No, or
Or
electromagnetic theory. And I played football for 2 years, and then I was like, I'm out of here.
who did you have for thermo, by the way?
Dr. Collins.
I had Dr. Fan. It was very hard. That was difficult. That was
It
a
was
butt
hard.
kicking.
And then I had to take it again because
Mm.
then we also had to take physical chemistry 1 and 2, which is basically
Hmm.
kind of the same stuff. So I was like, oh God, I have to do it again.
So you come out with the chemie degree. You end up working at a plant. It sounds like a production plant.
Hmm.
But then looking at your history, you've got at least a decade of CPG work because you had this interest in products. What was that like?
Hmm.
What did you? I guess once you did your MBA, what was your involvement in the CPG world?
Oh, so I would say probably a good portion of my career was in CPG. It started, I interned at Coca-Cola when I was at Duke, so for me just to have that experience of working on one of the world's largest brands was amazing. Now, I wasn't necessarily crazy about my project, which was trying to get more high school students to drink more Coke, but
You're a pusher.
Uh,
I'm your pusher.
but it did confirm that I wanted to work on things that I could relate to and my friends could relate to. So I
mm.
spent many years working in consumer packaged goods. I spent time working at Johnson and Johnson, working on blood glucose meters. I know for people who
To
have
go
diabetes.
with the Coca-Cola after they did
I
the Coca-Cola.
know.
That's exactly
I
right.
know. I know. I
Hey,
know. I know.
complete the pipeline, baby. Complete the pipeline.
Then I went back into beverages, and I worked at Cadbury Schweppes, which then turned into Dr. Pepper Snapple. And so I worked there for about 8 years, 4 years in New York, and I was working on a lot of their non-carbonated brands when I was in New York. Worked on mixers, which are products that are used to make mixed drinks. So that was a very fun time,
Mm,
and that was around the Sex and the City heyday. So we were doing a lot of
mm.
martinis and mojitos.
I know she got a
Um,
full bar at her house right now. I know there's a full bar over there.
shake, shake. Um, and then I when I came down to Texas, started working on Snapple and worked on some just amazing programs, like supporting the Celebrity Apprentice. We were on a finale for that, so worked with Brent Michaels and Holly Robinson Pete developing new products. Worked on the Amazing Race show. We had some products associated with that program, and
Love
then we
that
also
show.
did a program with Maroon 5, where they came and designed their own tea flavor as well. So, spent a lot of years in beverages. Then I went down the street to work at Frito Lay. So then I was like, well, what goes great with beverages? Chips. so, so I worked a couple years supporting all the various brands there, Doritos, Tostitos, and their promotional group. And then one day I got a call from a headhunter about an opportunity at Samsung to
Mm.
work in VR. And that's what kind of started me on my path to go more into emerging tech.
This is where we get to pondering tomorrow. See, Brent and I manage a shared thread on what is that? I guess it's a group on Instagram.
Yeah, yeah.
Is it a group? What is that called?
It's a group. That's the
Yeah.
name. That works.
We
That's
have
the
this
group.
group called Pondering Tomorrow where basically we do the morning reading and if something makes you go, that's pretty cool. You post it in there and say something about it. So emerging tech, as I was saying, but also, as you said, we're going to do a little talk about the intersection of emerging tech with entertainment and obviously the impact of that stuff on culture. So you go to Samsung and this is like, how long ago? Like what year are we talking about?
Oh, was this like 2015, I think,
Okay,
maybe?
so we're already in the
Uh,
cool era. Like we're way past like brick phones or bad TVs.
Mm.
We're in like they're the best TV, and they're also doing wearables, right?
yes.
Okay, Tell me, what did you learn at Samsung? And are they the coolest in the space? Or were they the coolest in the space?
Well,
What's
what I
interesting today?
loved about Samsung at that time was that I've always been fascinated with innovation.
Hmm.
And I love, especially when a role that I had allowed me to, you know, introduce innovation, whether it's new flavors, new packaging sizes. But this was the first time that I actually worked on something that was totally new to the industry. So I was part of the team that helped to launch VR headsets, Gear VR, to the US market. And so that was an interesting process because when I first joined, the product was in beta. So every day it was like, I think we're going to launch or we're not going to launch. So I had to be very comfortable with uncertainty and ambiguity because it was every day it was like, what's happening here? Um, but it
Was
was
it
so
already launched in
fascinating.
Korea or somewhere else, and you're just trying to figure out how to get it in the U.S. market, or was this the core market that we're
No,
introducing?
it was launching kind of globally
Okay.
in a sense. But I do know that Korea gives a lot of weight to the US market
Hmm.
because a good portion of the sales come from this market.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, so what I loved about this assignment was that it really kind of clearly highlighted for me the importance of not just supporting the device, but really looking at the ecosystem. So also from a content perspective, we had a great partnership with Facebook with Oculus,
Hmm.
but they were only delivering a certain type of content for us. And so Samsung took basically said, hey, we're going to develop our own app as well that features a different type of level of content because it's great you can put these devices out there, but what's going to keep people intrigued is the content and having
Yeah.
just constant content coming through. And so that's where I really started to get exposure working with creatives. And in that space, I was realizing because this was the early days, there weren't really a lot of people of color, working in this space. And so I actually cold called a couple of individuals who were working in this space, and it was great. Like it started to create this community. It almost started to feel like a little bit of a Harlem Renaissances in a sense. We would
Nice.
all show up at Oculus Connect, and I would hang with all these cool, people of color who were wanting to venture and do something in the VR space. And what was interesting too, that I was starting to come across a lot of directors who normally would do 2D films, and they were wanting to get in and expand what they do. And so I started mentoring, giving them tips because what I realized, especially with our community, is that there's really a big knowledge gap. And it's almost like why I reached out to you earlier in the year about CES. I'm always wanting to make sure that we are aware of what's happening out there, especially
Yeah.
since we are helping to set the trend with our content, and I feel like we need to also understand the tools that are available to us. And so that kind of started this mentorship opportunity where I really started working with creatives. Something simple as letting them know we had a demo loaner program so they could showcase their VR work to a large group of people and not have to buy devices.
Yeah. Yeah.
Some people didn't even know about that, or giving tips on when you're creating your content, how do you stitch it so it doesn't look crazy, or the type of content, how does it perform, because we could see performance, hey, this type of content performs well, maybe you should kind of create in this space. And from that experience with me mentoring people in this space and creatives, that kind of led me to get into the television academy. One day one of the individuals I was working with reached out and said, we thank you for all this great work that you're doing in this space. I think you should look at joining the academy and I would help shepherd your application through. And I was like, me? Really?
Awesome.
Wow. Okay. And that's how I end up joining that piece. And so from that experience, I really started to learn how to work with creatives, because they have all this great excitement and energy and thinking out the box, but there needs to be a process to kind of help streamline it so that it's beneficial and that they can also make money from it as well. So
You're talking our language because we've touched on this topic before that engineers are creatives. And so, like, to hear you say, I'm working with creatives and they need to have a process, it's like, duh, this is obvious. You sound like an engineer
yes,
teaching other non-engineers how to engineer. That's actually
yes,
it. That's
yes,
Right.
no,
incredible.
it is. Yeah, and I never imagined that my career would go this path because again, the early part of my career, many years, I was working in consumer packaged goods and I really
Right.
thought that I was going to stay in that space. And I took a leap of faith with the Samsung position. And, for the first 3 years of my time there, was really working in this innovative space of virtual reality. And what was great about it, there was no ROI. So,
Mm.
so a lot of
So you
companies
could.
were just throwing money in. Oh, it's going to cost $200,000. That's okay. Let's do it. I'm like, oh,
Mm,
really? Okay, great. So it was like the early kind of wild wild west where anything kind of could go in this space. And then because of it being so new, our team started to kind of mentor and talk with other companies, because then of course brand companies are trying to find unique ways to connect with consumers. So
mm,
went to different companies like Pepsi and Kraft to really talk to them about how to leverage VR with their content. So it was a really just fascinating time and experience that I think very fondly of, especially meeting so many great Black creatives in this space. I mean,
mm.
it really felt like this cool Renaissance kind of
Love
time.
it. Brent, quick note. When
Mm.
you invent the time machine, I need you to go back in time and give Leshawnda my phone number around
Mm.
2015, right when the Wild Wild West money starts coming.
Yeah, we need some of that Wild Wild West money.
I need some of that
Or,
right now.
hey, you talk about the future. Where the next Wild Wild West money?
There was the question I wrote down. I wrote down, where is the new Wild Wild
Where's the
West?
new
Where's
Wild
the
Wild
current
West
Wild
money?
Wild West, Leshawnda?
Oh, I would say probably AI, but everybody is trying to really figure out how to leverage I mean, I still think that there's something there with the metaverse. I think people are just trying to figure out, okay, how can I best utilize metaverse for my business or monetize in that space? I don't see that going away. I think it probably has more of a B2B kind of application right
Yeah.
now, where the strength is taking place. But definitely, I think everyone is trying to figure out AI. I think also immersive kind of experiences, whether it's using immersive technology or creating immersive experiences. So I'm excited for you as you're going to CES, if you can see Dolby Live or see the Sphere. You're just seeing more and more places kind of pop up where consumers want to have just a deeper experience. And then from a creative perspective, they want consumers to experience their content how they hear it in their mind.
Yeah.
Uh,
Mm,
And,
so yeah,
and you touched on the thing, you went right to it. It
oh, I
was
did.
the exact conversation that you were having and saying about where VR was the conversation I've been having for the last year about the Sphere. It's like, okay, you've got this incredible venue, but what does it take to create content for it, and who's allowed to and who's equipped to? What have you been hearing, or what has your conversations been around the 8K spherical content that is required for a space like that?
Well, I haven't really been involved in a lot of those discussions, but again, it goes back to the opportunity, even knowing about the opportunity. Do you have the training and the skills to develop this content? And so I hope that there are people who are helping to mentor people, especially people of color in this space, so that we can, be a part of that experience as well. I mean,
Yeah.
again, when I think about culture and what we drive, I mean, if I just take like Usher and that whole experience in Vegas, just imagine if it was at the Sphere. And I
mm,
think about so many people who went to go see him. It was amazing, all age ranges, all backgrounds. And so I think it's important, just as we have people who are in front of the camera, that we need people behind and working the technology as well. Because sometimes there are things that happen that maybe people don't know about, but we do.
Yeah.
I remember when I started working in VR, one of the issues I had was there was a lot of content showing us rapping in these dark, like hallways, women twerking underneath bridges. And I was like, and I was like, I know that there's more to us than that,
Mhm.
mm,
you know.
The word that came to mind was algorithm. Like,
mm.
somebody is programming what will be shown, and that will create more creators who are going to create more of what the algorithm rewards. And until we pull the curtain back on the wizard, and say, hey, Wiz, could you maybe entice some other images? I think that's something that's a worthy goal. Like, how do we figure out how to incentivize other images?
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's interesting. I'm excited about what Netflix is doing. They just announced that they're going to start releasing more of their data. So
Mm.
it's now giving a little bit more power to creators to understand how well their work is being received, from a streaming perspective. And
Mm,
so I hope more companies will do that.
great.
Okay. Hey, so I was just wondering, so what's coming up, or what are you looking forward to, or what are you excited about in emerging technology that's coming out now?
So I'm really excited about where AI is going to go because I know that there's kind of these multiple sides where there's one where there's a fear
Mm,
that it can take away opportunities and jobs, but then I'm also excited for what it can do, which is can help streamline process, help make improvements.
Mhm.
I was just watching something today on TV where they were talking about how UPS is leveraging AI to help them determine what are good places to deliver packages and what places are prone to have their packages stolen. And in those cases,
mm.
have it go to a UPS store, which I'm
Mm.
like, I'm all for that because I've had some packages stolen.
Right.
Um, and so I've been looking at AI as far as how it's translating in various categories. With my last role being at Dolby, I looked at a lot of the entertainment pillars. So I was looking at music, podcasts,
Mm.
gaming, sports, movies, all of it, because each one kind of has a different impact, to different, and how it's being leveraged. And so I know that's the talk of the town, but I think, I see a lot of great benefit with AI. And so that's what really has me excited. I'm still excited about the metaverse.
Mhm.
I'm just curious, will it finally kick in? Because when you think about, the metaverse and like let's take VR for example, it can be seen as an entertainment kind of format. And so if you think about your time as far as how you consume entertainment, like in a pie, it's going to have to take away from something else that you're already
Mhm.
doing, whether you're listening to music or watching TV. Is it going to be compelling enough to kind of pull people away from their normal ways of consuming entertainment? And I still think that there's something there.
Mhm.
So
I get the scary buzz on that. It's the iRobot scary piece. Like everybody inside the helmets and nobody actually sees the other person. And it's like, do we really need that? I don't know.
It's coming. You can't stop it now. It's
But
coming. And to your point, it's what are people going to do with it? And
right.
because I was talking to somebody about it in a couple months ago. It's like, oh, I'm worried about AI. I'm worried about Terminator. I'm like, that. Like, how can you make sure it's safe? I'm like, you can't make sure it's safe. There's
Yeah.
no way, but you can just try to keep. It's going to happen. So
it's going to happen.
it's either be prepared for it or get left behind. And like you were saying, Leshawnda, I see us approaching it as consumers, and that's frustrating to me because I know it's like I know I said I was coding and stuff earlier, but I'm no coder by any stretch of the imagination. But if you can Google, you can develop something, right? Even if it's something simple, everybody's scared of this thing that the billionaires are creating that these podcast bros are in charge of. But that's just what we see. Yeah, I mean, you could create something on your laptop or your desktop that at least gets you involved in the creation process of what this can do.
Yeah.
I think we're also going to need some policies put in place to kind of help
Yep.
provide guardrails on how we leverage AI. And I think that's part of the confusion right now, that there's really probably not a lot of guardrails out there. If you take,
Mm-hmm.
let's say, the music industry, I think that's why there's some concern because, in a sense, sometimes AI can be used as a sampling kind of vehicle. And we're already doing sampling. We've been doing sampling for years, but there's protocols in place that if you sample and you don't give credit, you're going to be taken to court.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
They don't necessarily have that yet, I think, in all these different entertainment pillars that are using it. So I think that, as this continues to move forward, I feel like every day I'm hearing about something new within AI and how it's being leveraged and used, that we also need to start thinking about policies that need to be developed too.
Yeah.
Definitely.
I went to a conference earlier this year with a software company that does that has a lot to do with the industrial production process. So from CAD design all the way through production and then through service, right? And they had a segment of their floor called Industrial Metaverse. And it was absolutely fantastic. They had setups, iPhone Pros with LiDAR. They, within 5 minutes, had created a 3D environment, scanning the area, and were able to share that with expertise elsewhere. So I just think that, I say that to say that we spend so much time talking about and thinking about these technologies in terms of entertainment, but that's just one segment. You know, that's just the segment that maybe as consumers, we sit and look at, well, what am I going to watch tonight? Or what's going to keep me happy tonight versus what about construction? How does AR and VR and AI affect construction or water purification or whatever? These other areas of our lives, medical. I mean, medical. What are the applications that we should be looking forward to in terms of AI and virtual reality and mixed reality in medical? It seems like it's already there. And wouldn't you want your surgeon to be fully aware of how to put the mask on and see what's going on in your arteries?
That was funny you said that, because bringing it back to the tailgate, we did it at Florida Avenue Grill this year. And I took my phone and I did a LiDAR scan, because Cree was asking, what are the measurements of I did the LiDAR scan, and then it gave me the dimensions, and I was like, here you go. She's like, how you do that?
Right.
Okay. Party with a purpose.
That's right.
Exactly.
That's right.
And we're going to work on our house. So I paid for the subscription so I could scan the house and do the same thing.
That's great. So then you do the model of your house, the 3D model of your house, and then you look at it and realize how filthy, like, dang it, I didn't realize these books were sitting there.
You got to clean, you got to cut that part out. But again, the AI can do that. It's got the technology. It was like, oh, just show me the walls and the floor. And it'll do that too.
That's better. That's way better.
Yeah.
Leshawnda, what's next? If you put on your futurist hat and say, hey, look, man, this is where I think we're going in the next 2 years on the industrial side, and here's where I think we're going on the consumer side, what are you pre-positioning yourself for?
Well, one of the trends that I talked about was really around globalization, and just really seeing everything kind of blend together. In the past, America was kind of seen as we're the developer of all this great content, whether it's music and movie. And as you've seen and experienced, there's been a lot of great content coming from all over the world.
Yeah.
So I almost feel like it's not going to be really any kind of division. It's all just going to be kind of as one. I'm thinking greater focus on health, self-care, and digital aspects. Because especially just with everything that we've gone through with the pandemic, and just, I feel like we're still going through a lot, what's happening in the world, that there's a greater focus on how can we provide self-care. And there's a lot of digital applications from that perspective that has me excited. I think just even from a content creator, thinking about how can my content live in many different forms, starting to see what I call cross category kind of work happening. So, not just thinking about how your work lives, let's say in a movie, but could it also live in a podcast? So it creates more of this 360 structure.
Yep.
I see more and more focus around creators really having the tools to really bring their visions to life. So whether it's through spatial audio or from a vision perspective, like HDR10 Plus or Dolby Vision, really, how can I have the most real experience and deliver that to fans? So,
Right. What about for parents whose kids are entering middle school? Like, what should they be thinking in terms of, hey, in 4 years, you're going to be going into college. What should we be looking at is majors that are going to be fueling our future?
I'm hoping that more people would think about engineering. I would love to see more cross pollination between different schools. So, for example, like let's say the School of Fine Arts and Engineering, and I'm already starting to see that kind of work as School of Fine Arts. They now have an animation program. They're now bringing kind of that VR kind of technology. They're incorporating spatial audio into their training, and I love that because I love, people love performing, and we all love the artists, but the greater opportunity that I see is really being behind the scenes, how to deliver that output to the world. And so I would love to see more of that cross pollination. I see engineering probably changing, probably some new fields coming in from a computer kind of aspect. But with programming, I felt like, when we went there, we had to do a little bit of programming. I feel like
Yeah.
there's going to be much more programming, coding heavy. I don't know how I feel about that, but
Right. Me either. Right. But that's a great lead in, because Brent's working on some things with Double E. And I guess the question that I wanted to hear from both of you is, because if you were to be charged with going back to your department now, what would you advise and changes?
Well, for me, I think to her point, it's the cross pollination, right? And like we talked about before, Brendan, it's what does electrical engineering mean in 2023,
Right.
right? When we were there, our professors were focused on power and delivering power, which makes sense. And then as we were in school, it kind of transitioned to more on the computer side. So because you had the internet
Circuits.
coming out, you had all of those things that were, because even circuits, I mean, you had to improve the microchips, you had to improve computer performance. And now I think there's a great understanding of devices. And granted, as technology advances in that space, things will need to change. But unless there's some literal quantum leap in what the computer you can put on your desk at home, those things are going to move in a slow progression. So it's what does electrical engineering mean today? And I don't have the answer to that, but I think the cross pollination with the arts, with business, because that was one thing that I really wish that we had was you're an engineer and you create, but you create and somebody else knows how to package it and sell it. And not saying, you're not going to be a jack of all trades. You shouldn't try to be that, but you should at least have an understanding of monetizing your creation.
Right.
I love that. I was going to suggest an entrepreneurship kind of track to go
Mm-hmm.
along if we were in engineering, because I don't think we were really taught that. So it was almost like we're going to train you to go out into the real world
Right.
and
Work
work
for
at a
somebody else.
corporation. Yes, versus, hey, you can develop a new formula, you can develop a new app, a new kind of electrical system, and create your own company and monetize that. And so I would love to see more entrepreneurship kind of classes, where I know we have the entrepreneurship center now, that's
Mm-hmm.
being led by Aaron McKinney, to maybe there's more offerings there. I do know that School of Fine Arts is really kind of taking that stance, and they're developing a conference, to kind of really bridge the gap and connect things together, for students, to really kind of show them all the opportunities that are there for them.
Okay.
Yeah. That's fantastic. My brain goes to what organizations or companies would be interested in the output of creating a curriculum that measures the arts with science, with marketing or entrepreneurship as well. And then I always find that once we find a problem big enough of our own and solve that it becomes
Mm-hmm.
something that we can scale and leverage across other populations.
Right.
So it'd be interesting to see if this conversation leads
Yeah,
any of us
I
to
would
action.
say any of the streaming services, whether it's Spotify,
Mm-hmm.
Paramount, it's going to require all of the things that we talked about, that cross pollination. So the companies are there. I think it's just knowing about it and knowing about those opportunities. Like, I did not know about the opportunities that were at Dolby until I got there. And I was like, what? This place existed? This is crazy. I didn't even know. And so that's part of what I'm trying to do, is really just let people know about all these opportunities and what it can do for you, that you don't have to go down this traditional path.
And I
And there's nothing wrong with the traditional path, but
Mhm.
yeah.
And I think that that's part of it too. Is Brendan, your question was, what do these kids have to look forward to when they go to college? And so many places aren't requiring that bachelor's anymore, right?
Mm,
So there's the opportunity there of, and I'm thinking, like you were saying, the VR or metaverse is perfect for education. I think too, because if I tell a sixth grader that I'm an electrical engineer, how can I explain that to him so he understands it? And if again, somebody that's in high school considering college, if she asks about engineering, I might not be able to answer the question. But if that content was created, because it doesn't even have to be created nowadays, right? It could be Ask ChatGPT or something in that space what does engineering look like? And granted, you get the text piece, but I can see that, oh, now we're going to set up a school in the metaverse where you could just walk down and it would go out and gather information and create a curriculum or whatever, and then show how engineering matches with construction, how it matches with art, because you need the lighting and the sound and all of this stuff too. So I think there's all the pieces are there. And to your point, we just got to figure out how they go together and who that's valuable to.
Yeah. I'm so much more interested in revolutionizing probably elementary versus college to start. Like start at fourth grade, fifth grade, get them used to new tech. Preschool's tough. You know,
but
I get it.
They're getting phones in their hands.
Man, nah.
Again, it's happening. It's happening, right?
Yeah. So to my whole point is to start earlier, right? Start way early. We can create content at higher levels. Like you can have college kids creating content that fuels the educational experience in fifth grade, fourth grade, third grade. But you fast forward 10 years past that, you've got these incredible people who are not only digitally natives, but they're also producers. They're used to consuming at a distance, expertise from all around the world, and now they're hitting college. How will they become as alumni? How will they revolutionize and change their schools then versus kind of starting so late in the process as college?
It's too late. That's definitely too late. Because that's one of our biggest heels as Americans is we're still training people to work in factories. Just be smart enough not to blow everything up. That's all they want. That's all they want. And if you do blow it up, well, we got 10 more to replace you anyway.
Yeah.
So that's it's a cultural shift that needs to happen also.
Leshawnda, what's your dream gig? Well, like you got the magic wand. You can like say, hey, look, for the next year, I'm going to spend my time getting rewarded to do what?
Wow. I think where I really love is the area around partnerships, but in the area around that intersection of entertainment and tech with a layer of mentorship. I really love mentoring creatives in the space, especially diverse creatives. Really trying to break open the paradigm to really make it an equal playing field so that everyone is aware of the great technologies and support that's out there and how you can leverage these tools, the jobs that you can have. And so that's what gets me excited.
I love it. Leshawnda Larkin, thank you so much for joining the Black Futurists. You are the Black Futurists for a day.
You are the Black Futurists.
I saw Mike Tyson talk about taking hallucinogenics, and he said, if you do the toad, you become God for like 3 minutes. Like, what, you get to talk to God? No, you are him. You've been the Black Futurist for a day.
Thank you for having me on. Again, this really felt like home, being with you all. I'm just so glad that you have this vehicle to really talk about the future and how it pertains to Black people. I think it's important that we think about innovation. How do we drive it? How do we support it? And your podcast is really helping to drive awareness of some of these great technologies and tools that are out there. So continue to keep moving forward in this space.
You are welcome back anytime. And if you're going to CES this year, I'll be there. Holla at me so we can go do some cool stuff. We got the cameras and everything. We're doing all of it.
Awesome. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.